1, 2, 3, 4. Hello and welcome. With Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie on the Nintendo Switch, what better time than to do a world ranking video? However, this is not going to be just any plain old stage tier ranking video. This is going to be a first person tour, or a POV tour of each world, examining each one's highs and lows. For the uninitiated, Banjo Kazooie is a platformer, released in 1998 on the Nintendo 64, followed up with its sequel Banjo Tooie in 2001. For this video, I will be focusing on the main worlds of the first game, Banjo Kazooie, ranked on my personal preference. Feel free to let me know your favourites and rankings of the stages in the comments section. For this video, Spiral Mountain and Grunty's Lair will be excluded from the rankings due to simply being a part of the hub world. We are going to focus on the meat and potatoes of the game. We will go through the levels by general order of visitation in the game. So we will begin with Mumbo's Mountain. Located at the very start of Gruntilda's lair and near the entrance, with just one Jiggy required to enter, Mumbo's Mountain cannot be missed. One of the first things that we hear when booting up Banjo Kazooie is the Mumbo Mountain theme on the demo. Who can forget it? It's bouncy, upbeat and simple. In my view, it just simply sums up Mumbo's Mountain. So let's head on in, and I'll take you on a tour and let's make a judgment of Mumbo's Mountain. Welcome to Mumbo's Mountain. Being the first world, the level is uncomplex, almost square-like in shape, with one side being comprised of mostly slopes. Thankfully, Bottles the Mole has the solution, teaching you the Talon Trot, so no need to backtrack to this stage later in the game to mop up the collectibles. After crossing the rickety little bridge, we'll come across the bull. I've always liked this bull in the first stage, and found its indestructible qualities quite amusing. Heck, even Gruntilda could be defeated. Being an introductory level, the main collectibles of the game, the Jiggies, are easy to locate and are mostly visible quite easily. Also, we have no bottomless pits here to worry about. We also get our first taste of a mini-boss. Conga sits atop a tree tossing oranges, and in retaliation we use our newfound egg shooting skills to combat him. We also steal an orange from Conga's tree, which we can then give to Chimpy, who will then grant us access to the battle with Conga. Now let's take a quick look at the slopes, full of easy to spot collectibles, and at the very top a stone structure which will get you even more goodies. These are simple traversing challenges for newbies. The world links together very well, almost holding your hand, taking you from one small challenge to the next. The most focal point of Mumbo's Mountain is Ticker's Tower, the termite hill, with a Jiggy sitting on top. That's right, Mumbo's first transformation, a simple defenceless scuttling termite with great slope walking skills, continues to keep things uncomplicated and swift. Here we learn the basics, that some Jiggies require a Mumbo transformation in order to be nabbed. We also learn the Beat Buster move here from Bottles, which is perfect for destroying these little tribal huts in Mumbo's little village. I hope Mumbo doesn't mind us doing this. This conveniently leads us to Mumbo's hut, so we can transform into the termite, and then we can head back to Ticker's Tower, where we can start to traverse to the very top from the inside. Yeah, actually, they can Kazooie, but for those who aren't quite skilled enough, using the termite is pretty simple to climb to the top of this tower. And once we get to the top, we can exit and collect the Jiggy that is on the top. Mumbo's mountain can swing either way, memorable or forgettable. Memorable because of its simplicity and homely feeling from being the first world that we encounter, plus it is on the demo. But in comparison to much grander scale and elaborate stages to come, it can come across as quite beige. Personally, I do enjoy the stage. It is a quick jaunt and easy to get through, setting the game off at a good pace. Game design wise, as an introduction, it's brilliant. As an experienced player, however, it is a bit on the plain side. I'll place this at a A rank. It isn't mind-blowing in the grand scheme of things, but it is well constructed and cheery. Right, who's ready for the beach? Welcome to Treasure Trove Cove. After the confines of Mumbo's mountain, the game opens up in a big way. The music is even more cheery. There's golden sand, a blue sky full of sunshine, and a huge environment to explore. As Kazooie highlighted, this is where the flying skill is learned. Clearly, the designers wanted this to be a big open stage so we could enjoy Kazooie's new flight ability. The world, or at least the beach, is your oyster, or whatever Yum Yum is. Upon entering Treasure Trove Cove, it may be tempting to jump into the ocean to save the blue Jinjo begging for help, and you've likely had your butt nipped by Snacker the shark in the process. So we have the dread of a shark harassing us in the ocean, but at least the sky is ours to explore. We also have Nipper, a sort of boss fight, which may be the first real challenge of any newcomer. I remember my excitement going inside the shell and discovering a Jiggy inside there for the first time. There's a multitude of rock pools, and palm trees aplenty, absolutely teeming with collectibles. Not to mention some valuable items hidden inside these nasty snapping treasure chests. Chomp chomp! There is actually no Mumbo transformation in Treasure Trove Cove, probably because chicken legs. Kazooie can flap her beautiful wings to reach the top of the lighthouse in seconds to bypass a multitude of platforming. Of course, you will still need to do these platforming sections on the way down with Banjo in order to collect all of the items scattered along the cliffs. And how can we forget about Blubber the Hippo and his ship, the Salty Hippo, which is stuck aground on the cove. Heading inside the ship, we'll find a host of collectibles, and perhaps even some gold, which could be useful for acquiring a Jiggy as a reward from Blubber himself. And of course, the cove's circular nature lends itself very useful to exploration. Heading either anti-clockwise or clockwise around the cove, you will come across most nooks and crannies and find a plethora of collectibles. Once you've finished around the edges, you can work your way up the centre to the lighthouse. And once you've finished there, you can head back down and look for any leftovers. There's also an X marks the spot pirate treasure hunt. I remember having a great time doing this for the first time. There's no transformation in the Treasure Trove Cove. The open space of the world in correlation to the flying and spring shock pads provides a fun experience all of its own, and there's not really any need for any transformation skills. It's best to just keep things simple and let you explore this world, this big open world to take flight in. We can also block up Leaky the bucket with some eggs, which will then give us access to the Sandcastle cheat code room. And who can forget the mysterious Shock Food Island? This will forever add an air of mystery and intrigue to the cove due to its link to Stop and Swap. It wouldn't be right leaving the cove without at least having a look inside Shock Food Island. And let's take a look at the pink Stop and Swap egg awaiting to be collected. Yeah, this adds a lot to the stage, I think. There is so much freedom, a great sense of adventure, colour, mystery. It has everything. And it's mind-blowing after the confines of Mumbo's Mountain, which previously felt quite open. This is one of the true big levels in Banjo Kazooie, and without a doubt, S rank. Do you agree? Disagree? You let me know. I wonder if the next stage will be this exciting and exhilarating. Next, we are stepping into Clanker's Cavern, and this is where the pace of the game slows to a grinding halt. We go from the smooth, flowing openness of the previous worlds to a much more methodical, slow-paced meander. For anybody that has played the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, you will know how it felt to speed through Green Hill Zone only to reach Marble Zone next, and lose all momentum with sections requiring patience and waiting around. And I believe that it was entirely intended, including the downbeat music, to slow down the pace here. Like any good narrative or game, it's all about peaks and troughs, and this is a trough in a grimy sewer. And this will eventually lead to peaks in later levels. The stage begins in this corridor full of collectibles and monsters, and eventually this narrow corridor leads into a big central cavern. We have verticality here, with platforms up above and under the murky brown water, a number of pipes housing collectibles. Kazooie, you can't say that, but yes, one of these pipes actually leads to an offshoot room which is full of radiation and mutant snippets. Simply beat busting these big-eyed freaky mutant crabs will net you a jiggy. Whee! Besides the mutant snippets, I always thought there was something strange about this room, like it should have held a secret. It doesn't, of course. Now let's discuss the elephant in the room, or the gigantic metallic biological whale shark thing in the centre of the sewer. Clanker. In order to free him, we first need to explore these murky, dirty depths. This is the part of the game where we are implored to learn how to navigate water in order to explore. Treasure Trove Cove didn't require submersive exploration, Snacker was there to discourage that for the most part, because they wanted you to focus on the sky in Treasure Trove Cove. And so, without a doubt, swimming deep to unlock Clanker is where many encounter their
sure
first
know on my
demise.
first time playing, this is where I first died. And the amount of playthroughs I've seen where the player will sail through the game until they reach this part. And as soon as it comes to controlling Banjo Kazooie under the water, since they're unfamiliar with the buttons and the mechanics, they will often drown on this particular part, where you need to swim through the key 3 times in order to elevate Clanker to the water surface. Anyway, with Clanker on the surface of the water, we now have access to the upper platforms in the main chamber, as well as access to all the rusty innards of Clanker himself. If swimming under the water and navigating those pipes and the keyhole wasn't fun enough for you, you now get to enjoy this methodical platforming exercise to collect the jiggies and the musical notes on the platforms above. So yeah, have fun with that. With the tasks outside complete, we can finally enter Clanker through a variety of orifices. The gills, the mouth via the broken tooth, or the blowhole. Take your pick. Regardless of choice, you essentially end up in the same place. I prefer the blowhole. What about yourself? Once inside, we have a minigame where we have to jump through hoops alongside a timer in order to win a jiggy. We also can learn the Wonder Wing here, which grants momentary invincibility. This move actually is quite missable for those who are put off by the underwater exploration on this stage. So, what is the verdict? As mentioned, this stage slows down the game's pace and somewhat mood, especially after Treasure Trove Cove. We get reconfined and are taught that sometimes patience pays off. I enjoy exploring Clanker's insides, though it isn't very big inside. The rest, while not terrible, it simply doesn't have the wow factor that some of the other stages have. I'm certifying this with a D rank, though I do want to say that no stage in Banjo Kazooie is actually terrible, but what Clanker's Cavern is up against, it's down with the logo. Whee! Welcome to BubbleGloop Swamp. Yank up your wading boots. Here in BubbleGloop Swamp, Banjo and Kazooie will take damage if they step foot into the piranha-infested swamp water. Luckily, Bottles is right behind us to teach us how to use the boots. These, for a limited time, will prevent us from taking damage from the swamp water. A simple mechanic that doesn't require much effort for the player to learn other than to collect the boots and then wade through the water. I do have to say, I do enjoy the atmosphere here, the thick swamp jungle environment. It's nice to be back in a natural environment after the mechanical environment of Clanker's Cavern. It is here that we are introduced to the time jiggy challenges too. Triggered by stomping on a switch, then B and K have to rush to collect the jiggy before it vanishes. Both on this stage can be quite annoying, especially with an oversensitive controller. There are also 5 of these golden moving statues called Croctus that you have to shoot eggs into in order to trigger a jiggy. Here we have the island of the Flibbits, and these yellow ones will all attack you at once. It can be quite overwhelming, but if you use the Wonder Wing, you can dispatch them pretty easily. We also have this big crocodile ahead in the middle of the map that adds some personality to the stage, but we'll get back to that later. In the southwest of the stage we have this maze made of logs. It is filled with piranha-infested swamp water, so wading boots are required again. I thought this bit was cool as a kid. We also get treated to one of these challenge switches again, this time with just 10 seconds to reach the Jiggy before it disappears. Continuing through the maze, we will eventually reach Mumbo's hut, where he will transform us into a beautiful crocodile.
Chomp, chomp!
As the crocodile transformation, we are actually able to attack for the first time when in a transformed state, and we're also safe from the piranha-infested waters. Now, remember that big crocodile head in the middle of the map? Well, we can enter it via its nostril, and we can partake in a mini-game versus Mr. Vile, the big red nasty crocodile.
Chomp, chomp!
Also, this may be one of the first occurrences where you will have to backtrack to this world, since the second challenge with Mr. Vile is a lot tougher and you may need to use the turbo trainers, which aren't unlocked until much later in the game. So while recording the footage, for the sake of ease, I've been using a levitation code to float around, and I landed on this big hanging tree vine. I've never stood on this before in my life. I never even wondered if you could. It feels special up here. I feel safe from the piranhas down there.
Chomp, chomp!
Moving on from the sanctity of this special vine, you can see littered around the swamp these gigantic bulrushes with items scattered around on top. You can simply just climb up these with Banjo. And if we scoot over here, we'll meet Tanked Up. And we have to beat bust his flippers so that he would retract them. And once all are retracted, he will open his mouth, cough up a Jiggy. We can then enter his mouth and we will meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh, actually it's Tip Tup and his choir, and this is a memorization minigame, and we have to hit the turtles on the back of the shell in the correct order in order to be rewarded with a Jiggy. Sorry, I thought it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I was wrong about that. It's just a choir. It's just a turtle choir. Okay, sorry about that. Back outside, we have more flibbits hiding in wait, and across the swamp water, we have this giant pink egg, which is actually made up of multiple layers, and you have to break each layer open to find the Jiggy hidden inside. And we also have this little area where you use a shock jump pad to make your way to the top of these platforms and bust open the little huts. Obviously, hidden inside the top one is a Jiggy. Little platforming challenge, not too tough. Gives you a nice view of the swamp. Ribbit time! I mean, verdict time. BubbleGloop Swamp is actually quite a compact stage. It is smaller than I remembered as a child. I enjoy the thick swampy atmosphere, but I feel like the stage lacks much personality. I feel that even the developers realised this, hence why they put a giant crocodile's head randomly in the middle of the stage, just to give us a focal point. The floor is lava type affair with the swamp water is something I actually enjoy, but the puzzle challenges are not the most fun. The crocodile transformation is great, but sadly we don't need him for much other than the Mr. Vile minigame and a few collectibles scattered in the swamp water. And so I am ranking this at a C rank. Where would you place it? Anyway, folks, do you fancy going somewhere cold?
It's Christmas time, it's Christmas time. Welcome to Freezeezy Peak. Ooh, it's cold, isn't it? This is where we begin, outside Boggy's igloo. What say we pop inside and say hello, and we can warm up at the same time? This is Boggy and his 3 children. Finding 3 presents spread across the world will get you a jiggy if you return them to the children. Cheer up, little guys, I found your presents for you. Anyway, now that we've warmed up, let's get back outside and let's get exploring. Next we have to trudge down this steep, narrow chasm. No looking at the snowman, we'll get there soon. Oh, and Boggy's here. He looks like he's in distress. Maybe we can find a way to help him a little later. Ah! I just got hit by a snowball. What? Stop! What? It's Sir Slush, and he's slinging snowballs at us. As stated, Sir Slush has a great aim, so we're just going to try our best to avoid him while we continue exploring. Over here, we have a nice little couple of cosy cabins, 3 in fact. I bet they're nice and warm inside, but we're stuck outside in the freezing cold. I know, why don't we flap our wings and try and warm ourselves up a little bit? Obviously, after taking flight, we're going to fly onto the top of the snowman. And here we can collect the jiggy hiding inside his pipe. But that's not all. We can actually climb onto the sledge and slide all the way down the scarf and land on Boggy's stomach. He'll cough up a jiggy. I wish they would start throwing those snowballs at us. Luckily, I think I know the solution. Bottles the Mole is over here and he will teach us the beak bomb. Now, whilst we're in flight, we can slam Kazooie's beak in toward enemies or into objects, including these buttons on the snowman. Hitting all 3 will grant us a jiggy. And if we beak bust the Sir Slush's hats with the red X on, we will also get a jiggy for defeating all of them. Here we have the Twinkly Munchers minigame. Here we have to save the Twinklies from the Munchers. Once enough of the twinkling little Christmas lights have reached the tree, a on button will appear on the back side of the tree. Once switched on with eggs, we can then fly through a star that is lit up at the top of the tree. Once you've flown through it 3 times, the ice inside the tree will thaw, giving us access to yet another jiggy. I feel like Freezeezy Peak has an almost more methodical, structured way in order to access the jiggies this time around, where certain events need to be fulfilled before you can move on to the next jiggy, such as saving Boggy before you can do the races. Well, let's have a quick look around this beautiful Christmas tree. I love the lights, and I really love how good. Oh my gosh, a termite in the tree? Guys, you should always check your Christmas tree for insects. Anyway, this is the ice that will thaw out. And the Twinkly Munchers minigame that ultimately leads in the collection of this jiggy, I would say is one of the longest activities on the stage. And of course, we have to talk about the snowman's gigantic winding yellow and red scarf. It's such great fun to run up and grab the collectibles on. Even though we have the ability to fly to the top of the snowman, I always found running up this scarf as Banjo and Kazooie to be a lot of fun. Oh, hey little guy. As you would expect, the water is freezing cold in Freezeezy Peak, and Banjo and Kazooie will take damage upon touching it. Luckily Mumbo can transform us into a little walrus, and we will be resistant to the ice water. While we're at it, we can talk to Wazza and gain access to his cave. Hi Wazza, thanks for letting us in. I've always loved this cave, the bright colours, the big green and pink crystals and the crackling fire in the centre. And I remember as a kid becoming really excited when I realised that there was actually a hidden little cave system in this water, and it leads to an additional honeycomb segment. It actually took me a while to find this the first time. It feels special in this little room as well. Also as the walrus, we can take part in this race against Buggy, and we have to run this course actually twice, once as the walrus and then once as Banjo and Kazooie on foot. However, we will need to backtrack to this stage once we've learned the turbo trainers, and this is one of the few jiggies where you actually need to backtrack to grab. I think having to do this race twice is not the most exciting thing to do, honestly. So, that is Freezeezy Peak covered. Like BubbleGloop Swamp, this stage feels much more compact than I remember. The cosy Christmas theme without a doubt contributes a lot to this stage. Not to mention the starry nighttime sky and the full moon shining down into this festive, secluded snow peak creates a great atmosphere. The nighttime sky married to the music creates a magical feeling, and it is fitting when you consider the legacy of the legendary unobtainable ice key residing in the ice key chamber, which is tucked away inside Wazza's cave. The key intended to be magicked away to Donkey Kong 64, but forever sealed away in the Banjo Kazooie game pack. It gives an ominous vibe to the stage, honestly, a feeling of a present that we never got to open, ironically. Who would have thought such a little innocent location could hide such a big secret? All taken into account, I'd say that the peak is getting an A rank. Initially I envisioned an S, but some of the activities are not quite so exciting, such as the 2 races, and the stage feels a little bit more cramped than I remember. The atmosphere, however, as mentioned, is absolutely top notch. Anyway, what do you say we go and warm ourselves up a little bit? I hope you bought some suntan lotion and your shades. Welcome to Gobi's Valley. And this is where we begin, next to this little oasis. That's trunk of the tree you can see in the middle. And what's that noise? Oh, it's a Jinjo. He looks like he's stranded on that rock. And these are the turbo trainers which we will learn to use here in Gobi's Valley. That's Gobi hanging out with Trunker, but we'll talk a little bit more about both of those later. Up this slope we find Jinxie. Look at all this glorious weather. I think Jinxie's breathing sounds a little weird. Let's climb up for a closer look. Oh yeah, I see the problem. All that sand's gone up your nose. If we shoot some eggs in there, it should clear it out for you, and then you can open this doorway for us. Once inside Jinxie's chamber, we discover a room full of collectibles and magic carpets. Shooting eggs into the Jinxie statue's mouth will make the carpets raise up and down. It's a simple platforming challenge, and there's not much else here. Back outside in the fresh air, we can use the flight pad that we found on top of Jinxie. We can then fly and do a beat bomb onto this Kazooie target, which will open up the next pyramid for us to enter. Welcome on in, this is Rupee's Pyramid, and this is his little pet, Toots. Hi Toots. Don't forget to get the musical notes in the little alcoves. Here, you will have to plop eggs into Rupee's little busking basket. Rupee will then perform a snake charming piece of music. Then you can climb up the snake and grab the Jiggy. Back outside we can talk to Bottles the Mole, and he'll finally teach us to use the turbo trainers. We're going to need these if we want to grab this Jiggy from this hand. It moves around really quickly and you need the trainers to grab this. Moving along, we come to the Star Switch Pyramid. Once the switch is pressed, you need to quickly run up to the top of this pyramid, ideally with the turbo trainers, as you don't get much time. As you can see, already there is quite a variety of things to do in Gobi's Valley. Once inside, we enter this water room with the monolithic smiley face at the bottom. Simply collecting the Jiggy will open the door for the pyramid, and it will drain the water out into the main level. A fun little quest that I enjoyed in Gobi's Valley was freeing Gobi from the rock that he was chained to. We then have to find him 2 more times. One location is next to this ancient stone sealed door. Beat busting his back, it will drop a honeycomb segment for you. After that, we will find him one last time in Gobi's Valley by heading back to the oasis at the start. Beat busting him here, he will squirt water into Trunker's mouth. Trunker will grow and leave you a Jiggy as a reward. Making use of the flight pad again, we can then use it to fly through these golden statue hoops. It has to be done in a particular order. While we're in flight, we can also fly through this round cactus, and if you press the switch behind the pyramid in the distance, a honeycomb will actually appear in the centre of it to collect. And with that said, pounding on this switch atop this pyramid, we'll have 10 seconds to quickly drop down and enter into this doorway. Now we are inside the puzzle pyramid. Here we have to play a game of pairs, matching 2 tiles together in order for them to stay locked in position. Once we manage to match all of the tiles, we will obviously get a Jiggy. I always thought this was a cool part of the game and actually really enjoy this part. I really like the fact that each pyramid has a different kind of task or game to be performed. The water that you see is the result of the water pyramid that we opened earlier. Now we can shoot the eggs into these Jinxie statues, which will eventually open up another pyramid on top of these steps. This is King Sandybutt's tomb. Probably in one of the most terrifying parts of the whole game, we must navigate this maze before the spiked ceiling crashes down on us. There's also a witch switch here to really put on the pressure. Luckily, this part is played from a top-down perspective, so at least it's not first person like this, because that would have been truly terrifying and very confusing. But this is one of the parts of the game where your adrenaline definitely gets pumping. This is a good part of the game. Once we reach the end, we'll come across the golden sarcophagus concealing the Jiggy. There's also a pot in here with a pink Jinjo hiding away, so don't forget him. As for that stone sealed ancient door, what do you say we break the rules and take a look inside? Now, if you've seen my Stop and Swap 2-hour lore documentary, you will know that this is one of my favourite places in the entire game. The way the thunderous, glorious secret fanfare plays aloud, then, as the dust settles, the lingering sense of foreboding for entering a location that should be long forgotten. The mystery of not knowing what action in some other rare game would have given us access, and what reward we would have gotten for passing the blue egg over to another rare title. This, like the ice key, has a magical feeling and it enhances the stage for me.
Away from the hot sun and upbeat chaotic desert, we stand in silence and wonder. And so concludes the tour of Gobi's Valley. As you saw, the valley is quite spacious, has a good variety of activities, with highlights including Jinxie, the puzzle pyramid and the spiked ceiling maze trap. It is great to be back in the sunshine again too. For me, this is a S rank. I will be rearranging each stage in their respective tier list at the end to better reflect my feelings towards each stage.
Now let's get spooky. Welcome to Mad Monster Mansion.
I'm not insane, I'm just getting into the spirit. Here, we are outside of Grunty's mansion. Right off the bat, I've got to say that I'm impressed with the deep purple sky and the moon shining through the clouds, giving it that yellow effect. I've never really paid much attention to that before, but it actually looks really good. Much like Gobi's Valley, there are a lot of small interior locations besides the big exterior region. Some interior rooms in the mansion are not especially interesting, but we will check the important ones, accessed via the front door, the chimney or the windows. Let's begin with the main mansion room, the dining room. Nappa, the sleeping ghost, protects a Jiggy. Touching the wooden floor wakes him up, so Banjo needs to drop from the chimney and jump across the cushioned chairs to quietly collect it. There are a few other collectibles in here, but nothing else of importance. Entering the mansion through one upstairs window takes us to the bathroom. Here we meet Logo the toilet, and yes, that is a secret stop and swap item above him. But let's just wash over that for now and oh, what is that down there? That looks disgusting. Tough, Mumbo's going to transform us into a pumpkin and we're going to have to get flushed down there to find out what is down here. If you've ever wanted a first person tour of a septic tank, well, here's your chance. Down here we'll find a Mumbo token and a golden Jiggy. We won't question how any of this stuff got down here. There are other small nooks and crannies too, which the pumpkin can fall into, such as the drain pipe, situated here. Another place of note to go with the pumpkin is just past this little pond here. You will need Banjo and Kazooie to break the fence before you can access it, but you can enter this well. Inside you'll find a Jiggy, music notes and a Mumbo token, as well as a bunch of whip crack enemies. Now that we have the stinky well and the stinky toilet out of the way, we can continue along this path. We'll come across these skeletons that can only permanently be defeated with the Wonder Wing. We'll also come across this strange looking shed with holes in and this strange ominous light emitting from it. We can bust open the front door and head inside. Inside is a Banjo Kazooie themed Ouija board, and we must jump on top of the tumbler to spell out the word Banjo Kazooie, granting us a Jiggy. Once we've finished with this shed, we can continue along the path. We must bust open this lock and we'll enter the churchyard. Also, see this little pot here? We need to deposit eggs into these little plant pots. If we do this to all of them, we'll get a Jiggy. Also, watch out for the tombstone enemies. This is where we can transform into the pumpkin by jumping over this wall. Continuing along the churchyard, we'll eventually come across this gate over here as well that leads to a hedge maze. We'll have to bust the lock off of this as well with Kazooie's Peak.
Also, pay attention to the stained glass windows. Look at that one. Maybe there's something interesting inside there. We then can continue and make our way onto the roof of the church. With a little bit of strategic platforming, we can eventually reach the very top of the clock tower. There's some musical notes and, most importantly, a golden jiggy on top. We also get a really magnificent view of Mad Monster Mansion. We can also enter the church. It's rather empty, besides a couple of spooky little ghosts that also require the Wonder Wing to be killed permanently. We also have this big grand organ in front of us with Moat's hand on top. If we play along with the song that he plays, we will get a jiggy. There's also some other little collectibles in here, including a witch switch. The last area outside that is of any real use is the hedge maze. When you enter it, you play it from a top-down perspective, so it's not too confusing and it's quite easy to see where you're going. There's not a lot in here, an orange Jinjo, some music notes and not much else. Navigating this maze will eventually just take us back to the very start of Mad Monster Mansion. Ah, we have one more location to look at. Quickly, let me take you to the cellar. In the cellar, we'll find lots of wine barrels. Whee! Not that I'm aware of, Banjo, but there is a golden jiggy inside this one. There's also some other collectibles in the other barrels. Ooh, I got a secret tingly sense then. There's something about this barrel with the X on it. What if we were to break in there? Yes, another stop and swap item. This one much more better concealed than the green egg atop of logo. This is the final stop and swap item that actually has its own designated area. With that said, that is all areas of Mad Monster Mansion of importance covered in the tour. Mad Monster Mansion, as stated, has a variety of small interior locations scattered throughout, and some require intricate pathways to gain entry, particularly the ones requiring the pumpkin. The overall spooky theme is great, and I have a newfound appreciation for the skybox. It is fun exploring the exterior and interiors, and I'd say it is one of the more challenging stages to get 100% on so far. The amount of effort and complexity here in this world is a far cry from that of BubbleGloop Swamp, and it is a lot more developed and full of character than the training world Mumbo's mounting. For me, this is an A rank, and as I mentioned, I will be arranging all of the ranked stages in their respective tiers at the very end, once all are ranked. Right, all aboard, we have a boat to catch. Boop boop, the boat is preparing to sink. Well, it is Rusty Bucket. Welcome to the bay. We have a big ship and lots of little warehouse buildings to explore. And some oily water, so let's get to it. This is where we begin. And we have two big funnels on the Rusty Bucket right in front of us. There's also this little slope in order to access the Rusty Bucket. As you can see, it's quite a grimy, run-down location. You're definitely going to need a good bath after exploring this area. Oh no, Kazooie, I assure you, it's a perfectly safe place regardless of how it looks. I mean, we've just fallen into the oily water. We're going to take double damage down here. Let's have a quick look around. Oh, there's a Jinjo in that room. Let's not forget about him. Oh, at least we can get some fresh air by standing on these crates. Back on the side of the docks If we shoot some eggs into these little toll slots, we can then pass over these bridges that will open up. On these warehouses, the ones with the transparent glass, we can actually beat bust through these windows and find rooms inside. There's a Jinjo begging for help on this boy. However, jumping into this pool of water here, Snacker will show up from out of nowhere. So watch out for Snacker. Jump, jump!
Fun fact, this little opening in the warehouse wall was the last place I explored in the entire game. Even after the stop and swap secret areas, due to the fixed camera angle in this corner of Rusty Bucket Bay, it can be easy to miss this. In my naivety, I thought I'd discovered a new stop and swap area or something linked to it. In reality, upon finding the honeycomb segment switch, I realised it was simply just an area to collect the last honeycomb segment that I had missed. Strangely, another one of my favourite areas, especially in this stage, is this strange little corner with a toxic waste pool. Quietly sitting in this corner, a Jinjo and 3 musical notes. We also have these black toxic waste barrels seen nowhere else in the game. One rests beside the wall, and I did wonder, is this something hidden behind there? We also have this yellow toxic barrel that is completely unique to the game. Continuing along the dock, we can climb up this crane. If we hit the switch before doing so, we get a timed challenge where we have to quickly run along the top of the crane, jump down onto the rusty bucket, and grab the jiggy underneath the suspended crate. We also have to beat bust these numerical switches at the front of the ship in the correct sequence to get a jiggy too. Continuing along the dock, we can come across these cargo containers. You can enter them and each has their own room inside with collectibles. Nothing especially amazing about this area. Continuing on along the toll bridge, we come to yet another crane. There's also a orange Jinjo at the very end of this dock. Climbing up the final crane, we can reach a particularly tricky jump that leads to a witch switch. I don't know if it is just me, but I always find something mystifying about the entrance to the dock area. Realistically, I knew these gates were never to open. I knew the sunset-lit murky ocean water was just for show, as were the low-detailed warehouses in the background. And yet, I felt there was more out there, hidden amongst it all to discover. The outer bounds are eerily quiet, and the juxtaposition of the beautiful orange sunset to the grimy dock area that we are in is just amazing to me. Hitting a switch at the bottom of the crane will also release the gigantic TNT crate. It will drop and explode a hole in the boat. Now, we can delve into the rusty bucket's depths. Here, we have to fight the big boss boombox. Fire plenty of eggs at him, or use the Wonder Wing to make quick work of him. Exploring the rest of the deck, we find vent pipes, some of which can be entered. This one leads to the kitchen. Sorry, tough luck, Banjo. It looks like you're getting smelly, disgusting, sludgy brown stuff, as well as some eggs for lunch. Continuing exploring the side of the ship, we come across the portholes, some of which can be broken open and entered. Some of the rooms are not that useful, but one in particular, the captain's cabin, is pretty nifty. Inside the captain's cabin, we'll find a couple of enemies, some music notes, and, most importantly, a golden jiggy. This is actually the room of the red stop and swap egg. Who knows what would have activated this egg to appear here. Watch out for these nasty chomping fake vent pipes. We can also travel to the top of the funnels. Finding these ladders we can climb up. On top of one of the funnels is a Mumbo token. There's also some musical notes up here, as well as, and you guessed it, probably, a golden jiggy. We also get to see more of that beautiful sunset that I mentioned earlier. I love the purples and the oranges and that never-ending ocean that just seems to stretch out forever. I wonder what else exists in this crazy world of Banjo Kazooie out there. As simple as it is, climbing to the top of the ship onto the funnels is one of the highlights of this stage, no doubt about it. We haven't even broken this door open yet to take a look at everyone's favourite part of the world. Let's do that right now. Welcome to Banjo Kazooie's most evil area in the entire game. I know this is the area you've been waiting for. I know it's the area you love. After breaking and entering the door, we start in this part of the funnel. We can climb or drop down. There's a honeycomb piece there as well. We then enter this big chamber full of rotating cogs, rotating pipes and rotating platforms with a bottomless pit. Doesn't it look welcoming? My advice is to do this part of the level as soon as you enter. Collect the musical notes here, collect the jiggy and hit the switch in this room and get the associated jiggy back outside as quick as possible, and then continue collecting the musical notes. If you are playing on the N64 version, that is, or the Switch version. The Xbox version is a little bit simpler because you do not lose your music notes even if you die. The propellers are absolutely dangerous, but once you shut them off, we can travel back quickly and climb back up the funnel. Once outside, we can jump back into the water, swim behind the back of the propellers which are now shut off, and collect the jiggy there. This is probably one of the most challenging jiggies in the game. While we're in the water, let's not forget about poor Snorkel. He's trapped underneath the ship's anchor, but we can save him if we head into this little hole at the bottom of the ship. The task at hand is simple. Simply go down this corridor and beat bust the anchor switch. The anchor will be lifted and Snorkel will be freed, and we'll get a jiggy. The last room of any interest is the navigational room. As you can see, there's lots of navigational equipment in here, and lots of maps and notes, but the most interesting thing in here is the big map on the wall of Treasure Trove Cove with the X over where Shark Food Island, the pink mystery egg, is. If you watch my stop and swap to our lore documentary, you will know the significance of this. So, with all that said and done, where does Rusty Bucket Bay rank? It's a notorious stage amongst the Banjo fandom, especially for that propeller room. Honestly, I did not think that I would have a lot to say in this section, but there is a lot in this stage. We are nearing the end, and so the challenge is increasing. I do enjoy adventuring around the ship. There are plenty of interior locations to discover across the warehouse and the ship itself. As previously expressed, there is something about the atmosphere of this stage I dig. The warm sunset sinking into the endless murky ocean as we remain in the dirty dockyard. The cold, crisp air tinged with the smell of warm fumes from the warehouses nearby. The mysterious connection to Treasure Trove Cove's pink egg. As for physical features, the boat itself is great fun to climb to the top of. The toxic waste area is different. The cranes are enjoyable to climb up. The propeller room is scary. A controversial stage, but one I've grown to enjoy, especially with its farty brass musical theme. Personally, for me, this is getting an A rank.
Feel free to flame me in the comments.
Welcome to the final world, Click Clock Woods. Here, the goal is to climb a giant tree throughout all 4 seasons. We begin with spring, head towards summer, spend some time in the autumn, and finally chill out at the winter.
Certain actions performed in one season will affect the other season, which gives it a unique flavour. Anyway, let's head into the spring. As you can see, this place is absolutely huge and we have a lot to cover. 4 times. So, let's get moving. The enemies here are dressed like Robin Hood. If we progress forward past this little lake, we'll come across Naughty. He's trapped outside of his home, but we can't do anything for him at the moment, so we're just going to leave him for now. As we continue to progress over here, we'll come across this little garden. Originally, this plant does not exist, and we need to plop eggs into the hole in order for the plant to begin to grow. We will progressively make it bigger throughout the next season. This is Mumbo's hut, and these are thorned brambles, and if you touch them, you're going to take damage. You'll need the wading boots to get through them. Here we're walking along the bottom layer of the tree, and as you can see, there's a lot of enemies around here. We're going to have to rat-a-tat-rap them to get rid of them. Well, it's time to continue on up the tree, and as you can see, there's lots of branches that we can clamber around on, and this here is a leaf bud. In the summer, these will open up into platforms, and as we progress, we'll come across the beehive. There's not a lot we can do with the beehive at the moment either, so we'll just push forward. As you can see, there is a lot of precarious platforming here, and I've always liked this place here. This is a house that somebody is constructing. We never actually get to find out who is constructing this, but as the seasons progress, the house gets more built up. Now, as somebody who is not a fan of heights in real life, I actually find this part quite daunting when I play it, and it actually does make my stomach tingle a little bit. This switch will open up the summer portion of Click Clock Woods, and this is Nabnut's house. We'll visit him in a later season. And this is Aries' egg. We need to smash this egg open and we'll get a baby bird. Then we need to feed him throughout the seasons in order to help him grow. Progressing to the top of the tree will lead us to this platform with the Jinjo, and there's also a door up here as well. There is a Jiggy in there, but not much else. Mumbo will only transform you into a bee during the spring, and when he does, this is the only use, to fly over here and collect this Jiggy. The bee is pretty much useless otherwise. Well, that's the spring, and now let's roll on to the summer. Well, here we are, it's summertime, and as you can see, it's a lot brighter looking here now, a lot more yellow. And the items can be tricky to find in this longer grass, like that Jinjo hiding in the corner. If you want to collect all the musical notes, you're going to have to check every nook and cranny. The lake has dried up because it's so hot, and we can actually break the boulder to help Naughty the beaver get back into his home, but we can't enter his home just yet. Here is the switch for the autumn portion of Click Clock Woods. Here we'll find Gobi next to the plant. If we beat Busty's hump, he'll spew water into the plant hole and help it grow further. Just like before, we need to climb this tree, so let's get started. On our journey to the top of the tree, we need to look out for not only the musical notes that are scattered all over, but also, at least in summer, for 5 of those green caterpillars. We need those to feed the bird at the top of the tree. Also, in summer, we are able, as Banjo and Kazooie, to enter the beehive by beak busting that little trapdoor on top. Once inside, we have to do a fight with the Zubas, a tribe of bees, in order to get a Jiggy. Using the Wonder Wing is a surefire way to beat them pretty easy. As we continue climbing to the top and collecting the bugs along the way, we'll come across the wooden house that has been constructed even further, although there's no floor in it yet, an unusual way to construct a building to be sure. Some precarious platforming will get us an extra life and a Jiggy. And again, this area really scares me. I am not joking. This part gives me the tingles in the stomach. The height, the lack of flooring, the fact that we will have to climb all the way back up if we fall. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. As you can see, those leaves are also platforms now, so they do provide a bit of a shortcut if you are proficient in platforming. And as we continue towards Airy, the baby bird, we can give him the 5 caterpillars that we found, and he will grow a bit larger. And here we are in the autumn, or the fall, depending where you're from. Look at that beautiful orange skybox. I've never really noticed that before. That looks absolutely stunning. And as you'd imagine, there's lots of reds and browns here, and since we helped break the boulder for Naughty back in the summer, we can now enter now that there's water in the lake again, and we can get our prize and look at Naughty's cozy little home. So if we progress back to the plant, we'll come across Gobi for the final time in the game, and we can once again beak bust him to make him spew water onto the plant, which will make it grow and open and give us a Jiggy. There's also a lot of fallen leaf mounds around the map now, so we have to make sure that we explore them for any potential music notes or Jinjos, etc. As we proceed up the tree, we need to try and find 10 green caterpillars this time for the bird. So hopefully you'll be looking out for those along the way. There's actually one on top of the beehive this time. There's nothing really of any use in there for us during the autumn, so we can just press forward and we'll reach that hut that is now fully built and it has an intact floor. Finally, I don't have to be too afraid of this place now. And yeah, I'm just blown away by the colours here actually. I've never really looked at the colours properly. So here is Nabnut the squirrel outside of his house. He wants us to collect acorns for him so he can hibernate during the winter. Nabnut actually has 2 additional rooms to his house, and one we can access by going up this ramp. That's his water storage room. There's actually an acorn in there. And there is more platforms here with acorns to collect. There's also this very precarious slope here with an acorn at the bottom. And also, if we continue forward up to the top of the tree, we'll find the winter switch. Finally, we can enter the winter. And hopefully we have 10 caterpillars by now, so we can feed the bird and help him grow. And finally, we reach winter, Click Clock Woods. As you can see, it's frosty, it's cold, and most of the greenery is now dead. The lake is frozen over. If you broke the rock in front of Naughty's house, there's a challenge here where you can find this crack in the ice and swim through this cold water and enter his home to get the honeycomb here. Both honeycomb segments are actually in the winter part of Click Clock Woods. You also take double damage whilst in this freezing cold water. Once we reach the plant, we will discover that it has completely died. The beehive has also perished and is half broken. Continuing up, we will find that the hut that is now fully constructed is boarded up, so Who knows who may be sleeping in there and hibernating for the winter. We have these slippery platforms to get across, and of course we have Sir Slushes throwing snowballs at us, and you don't need me to remind you how accurate these guys are. On here we can use the flight pad to smash this window above Nabnut's home, and we will get the second honeycomb piece in there. We'll find Nabnut hibernating in his home in winter, but we'll leave him in peace. There's not really anything in there that we need. And finally, we have an adult Airy that will grant us that Jiggy that we've been waiting for all these 4 seasons.
So that is all seasons of Click Clock Wood covered. I'm aware that this is quite a quick overview of Click Clock Woods, but if I pondered every corner and small interior of this world, we would have been here for a very long time. The most important parts of this stage have been highlighted. The stage is beautiful and atmospheric across the seasons, and seeing Click Clock Wood go from being full of life and colour to a desolate, freezing, slush-filled wasteland in the winter is quite sad. But at least we get to take pride in seeing Airy the Eagle finally become an adult after caring for him for 4 seasons. The stage takes every bit of platforming we have learned across the game and puts it into a tough challenge across time and a huge woodland area. Pretty fitting for Banjo, being a bear. It was good to end the game on a more natural note. Pardon the pun.
Banjo, note, whatever. Talking of notes, it's also great that each season of Click Clock Woods has its own variation of the theme tune to suit the setting more. A lot of creativity and thought went into this stage, and for me, this has got to be an S. I didn't find the tree repetitive to climb because honestly, so much differs each season. And now, with all stages ranked, I'm going to quickly put them in an order I feel more comfortable with. In first place S rank, it's a toss up between Gobi's Valley and Treasure Trove Cove. In the end, Gobi's Valley just won. I just love the sandy, ancient atmosphere of that location. In second place will be Treasure Trove Cove. It's a big, wide, open, beachy area, lots of freedom to fly. What is not to love? In my third S rank position will be Click Clock Wood. It's a great creative level, maybe a little bit too big towards the end of the game. The game is winding down and it feels like this increases the final stretch a little too long, but still an amazing level. Freezeezy Peak. Great atmosphere and home to the legendary Ice Key. Second in A rank, Rusty Bucket Bay. I love the skybox, I love the music, I love the general theme of the stage, and to me this just edges over Mad Monster Mansion and the creepy vibe of that stage. In retrospect, looking at all of the stages now that they have been ranked, I almost feel like Mumbo's Mountain should actually be a B rank. It's a great training level, gets the game up to a great pace and a great start, but it is very basic in comparison to some of the themes and stages we get later. Is it bad if I want to put it in a B ranking now? Is it bad of me? I think it's going to go in B. There's nothing in B. I think Mumbo's Mountain is going in B. As for BubbleGloop Swamp and Clanker's Cavern, they're staying exactly where I placed them. As stated before, I don't believe that any of the stages in Banjo Kazooie are actually terrible. Even Clanker's Cavern and BubbleGloop Swamp in the lower tiers, they're still good fun to play and a lot better than some stages on other platformer games out there. So, what do you think? Now it's your turn. Let me know, are there any stages you think are overrated in general? Any underrated stages, and why do you feel that way? I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, leave the comments if you wish to, and please subscribe. I'll be making more videos in the future. They may take me a while because I put a lot of effort into them. But yeah, please let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.